Alright guys, Fula coming to you with another video. Shout out to the whole LGBC. If you like this video, please feel free to like the video. And if you would like to subscribe to the page, feel free to subscribe to the page. You know, you don't have to. It's always by choice, never by force. But, you know, if you do, welcome to the family. You know, welcome home. That's what I have to say. So, you know, I hope you guys are, you know, weathering this storm. As you know, they said that now Corona is basically out of control. You know, they said basically it's reached a crucial level now. You know, you have all types of craziness going on. You know, but my opinion is somewhat that this thing is a big propaganda machine. I don't know for sure. Because on one instance, they say Corona is out of control, right? On another instance, they say that the protest did not cause the how should I say it, the certain spike in coronavirus. They said the protest had nothing to do with it. Whereas I say that the protest had everything to do with it for the simple fact that people were close together. A lot of people weren't wearing masks. It's pretty impossible to social distance during the protest. You know, that's just very difficult to do, you know, to social distance during the protest. But anyhow, you know, I just wanted to do this video because today is, I guess you can say, a bittersweet day. And I'm going to consolidate all three of these countries into this video, okay? Today is the day that we celebrate the Independence Day of my home turf, Cabo Verde. Another home turf that was radical at first, but then kind of adopted a supremacist ideology, Algeria. And another turf in which is radical, but it is being sabotaged by the United States, Venezuela. And I want to say that, you know, these things are interconnected. These places are interconnected in many ways. The first way that they're interconnected is that they were all victims of colonialism, okay? Venezuela, victim of Spanish colonialism. Cabo Verde, victim of Portuguese colonialism. And you have Algeria, or I should say Algeria, which was a victim of French colonialism. Now let's talk about Cabo Verde and Algeria first. You know, believe it or not, Algeria was a radical African state. And when I say African, I mean African. You know, there was a time in Algeria where Algeria focused on, you know, African unity over Arab unity. You know, and this was the time of Ahmed Ben Bella. You know, the thing is that with Algeria, our leader in Cabo Verde actually said, you know, Amilcar Cabral actually said, you know, the Christians have the Vatican, the Muslims have Mecca, and revolutionaries have Algeria. And the reason why he said that is for the simple fact that, you know, Algeria went through a bloody struggle against the French. It was very, very bloody, okay? The French did horrible things to Algeria. And what needs to be said as well is that Algeria, for the most part, was one of France's prized territories. In fact, they basically extended France to Algeria. You know, they basically said that was the extension of France. Algeria was. And, you know, you had even radicals from different places that helped fight for independence in Algeria. You have Frantz Fanon, who was Martinique, who helped Algeria with the independence struggle. And the reason being is he saw the racism and the ridicule that African soldiers would get when they enlisted in the French army to help the French actually, unfortunately, keep his territories. You know, that's a very unfortunate thing, but it happened. But it was the same thing with Italians. You know, you had, unfortunately, you know, in Italian contingents of the army, you had, you know, we had Somalians serve, and you also had Ethiopians serve the Italians, you know, against, like, for example, the Libyans. You know what I mean? When they were going at it with the Libyans. So, Algeria, right? The main force that was fighting for independence was called the FLN. I think it was called like the National Liberation Front. I think that's what it stood for. And the FLN, you know, was very internationalist in nature because, you know, it sought help from Cuba. And another thing that needs to be said about the FLN is that it actually helped our struggle in Guinea-Bissau and Cabo Verde. You know, you had cadre from Guinea-Bissau and Cabo Verde that did training in Algeria. You know, and I don't know, I'll have to read more into it, but Algeria actually, I don't know if Algeria provided arms or not, you know, or they just provided training. I don't know. You know, I gotta find out. You know, I definitely gotta like look more into it. You know, I honestly have to read more into the Algerian struggle. You know, I have to read into it more. Now, you know, believe it or not, I know this sounds crazy, but it's unfortunately a common, it's like really a common trend that occurs in African states. You know, we simply just don't get along. And that's just unfortunate. You know, we really don't get along. You know, when Thomas Sankara was doing his radical reforms in Burkina Faso, guess who his main enemies were besides the CIA and France? It was Cote d'Ivoire, okay, Mali, Togo, and I hate to say it, but Libya had his hands in having him assassinated too, man. Libya actually trained the hitmen that would later exercise the coup d'etat. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's true. So now we go to Algeria. You know, Algeria achieved independence, and it was through a bloody struggle. It was through like countless lives lost. It was through struggle, sacrifice, and the like thereof, right? Now, fast forward, after the independence, you know, unfortunately, Morocco came into play. And Morocco wanted to claim some territory in the south. And that's where Cuba came in, you know? And the conflict never materialized. You know, I don't think there was any military conflict. But, you know, you kind of have this kind of friction between, you know, Algerian and Moroccans, you know what I mean? And although you don't see it that much, there are black-skinned Algerians. Most of them are in the Sahara. They're in the desert. They're in cities like Tamarasset. They're in cities like Adrar. They're in cities like Tindouf. And that brings another point. Another reason why Morocco hates Algeria is because there is a contested territory called the Western Sahara, or if we want to call it the proper name, it's called the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. And when you look at the Sahrawi Republic, you can kind of see a distinct difference between those people and Moroccans. The Sahrawis, they're more akin to Mauritanians than they are Moroccans. So they want sovereignty. But Morocco won't give them sovereignty because that is a material resource area. So because of the war, because of the conflict, because of the guerrilla movement called the Polisario Front, which Algeria has helped out in many ways, that's another reason why there's a friction. You know, so at one point, Algeria was a radical African state that valued African unity over Arab unity. And another thing that was surprisingly shocking to me is that the Black Panthers of the United States actually sought refuge, actually had what we call a rabat. You know, that's the name that we use. The Black Panthers had a rabat in Algiers. You know, and that's worth some more research into looking into. You know, I don't know who the leader was at the time. Was it, I think his name is Boudou Amin, I don't know. Or was it Ahmed Ben Bella? I don't know. So that's the reason why that I kind of shout out, you know, Algeria for what it once was. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not sure what's going on in Algeria. What I do know is that, you know, unfortunately, you know, there is a lot of racism against Black Africans in Algeria, and that's like a form of his former self, of what it once was, you know. But that's neither here nor there. And so as for Cape Verde, you know, Cabo Verde, I'm actually Fulbe by tribe, okay? I'm not Creole. I'm Fulbe by tribe. And the reason why I have roots, or I should say I have roots in Cabo Verde, is due to the simple fact that my folks were kind of looking forward to Cabo Verde and Guinea-Bissau being one entity. You know, that was the original plan. Altogether was for Cabo Verde and Guinea-Bissau to be one. But apparently that didn't happen. You know, Amilcar Cabral's vision was unity between the two people, between the two nations. For the simple fact that, you know, when you look at a Cabo Verdean and when you look at like a Bissau Guinean, you know, it's really kind of hard to tell apart sometimes. You know, the only way you'll tell apart maybe is if you like deal with Cabo Verdeans from Fogo, like deal with the ones from Boa Vista where you know the desert is and stuff like that. They tend to be like very, very light skinned more. And you know, that vision unfortunately didn't come to pass due to the simple fact that, you know, Amilcar Cabral, he was assassinated before he even saw independence. So his brother ran things, and, you know, unfortunately it kind of went downhill. And, you know, when you look at Guinea-Bissau, the unfortunate thing is that it had like many, how should I say it, it had many downturns too, because it had military coup after military coup after military coup after military coup. And so, you know, it never quite reached its potential. We never quite reached its potential, which is unfortunate. And because of this, and I love my Creole brothers and sisters so much. How I came up with them for the most part. And the first thing I did when I came to LA is I reached out to my Senegalese, and my Cape Verdean brothers and sisters because of our shared cultures and stuff like that. But the chains of colonialism kind of never wore off. We suffer from colorism. We suffer from wanting to be Portuguese more than African. And Amilcar Cabral, at first, don't get it twisted. At first, when Amilcar Cabral went to Portugal and stuff like that, he was what we call an assimilado. He assimilated, into, I guess you can say, Portuguese culture, Portuguese, get down and stuff like that. But eventually, what happened is he got with some radical students from the Portuguese colonies like Mozambique, like Angola, and the like thereof, Sao Tome. He got with them and they rediscovered like African history. They came into the realization that they weren't Portuguese, they were Africans. And so with that happening, that's when he became a radical. And that's when he led the independence struggle, and that's when he pretty much came doing it from nothing. It was really an idea. Started with meager means, and then other people got involved, like Cuba, like I want to say even North Korea. Amilcar Cabral went to North Korea. A lot of people got involved, and that it's crazy to say this, but do you know that Thomas Sankara actually read from Amilcar Cabral too? Do you know that Maurice Bishop of Grenada was inspired by Amilcar Cabral as well? And with these places, with Algeria and Cabo Verde and Guinea-Bissau, I'm optimistic, although like things are kind of grim right now. With Cabo Verde, you still have like poverty. You still have a place which is not really known for resources or anything like that because of drought and because of other factors. But I mean, I still do see some kind of optimism in it, and I do see some optimism in Algeria as well, Algeria. Hopefully they can get back to the African unity, and more of the Algerians that are about the African unity will step forward, and revive what they once had. That's the thing, because you have to understand something too. Before we had those borders and stuff like that, there were Algerians coming down to what is known as Mali, what is known as Senegal, what is known as Nigeria, what is known as Niger. They were coming down for trade, they were coming down for teaching, and they were coming down to study as well. But when colonialism happened, basically a hell of a lot of racism happened. And colonialism happened, don't get it twisted, colonialism happened way before maybe Europeans stepped foot. Because what happened is when like scholars got like Hellenic writings, I don't want to say Aristotle, but when they got Roman writings and stuff like that, those racist ideas about black people started being adapted into the writing, like the Curse of Ham and all that other jargon, stuff like that. That started happening, you know what I mean? But with Venezuela, Venezuela is very significant to me. I will be a fan of the Bolivarian Revolution and show solidarity and my appreciation for the Bolivarian Revolution for, as long as I have air. The thing is about Venezuela is, I'm going to be honest with you. I really didn't know that much about Venezuela until like maybe 2 years back when I went to Santa Monica. I was in Santa Monica at the time, and some Venezuelans, like, they kind of took a liking to me. They were very friendly because I was into soccer, they were into soccer, and they kind of took a liking to me, and we started talking. And I just researched more about the Hugo Chavez and the Bolivarian Revolution. And I saw what Hugo Chavez was saying about Africa and about Amilcar Cabral. And then what happened was I saw the face of who was hating against Hugo Chavez. And I saw the racist cartoons they were drawing about Hugo Chavez, calling him a monkey and things like that nature. And then I just saw, I saw like, okay, no wonder they're struggling right now. That's what happened with me. I was like, okay, this makes sense now. This is why they're struggling. It not only has to do with imperialism, it has to do with a hell of a lot of racism too. Because Hugo Chavez was trying to unify like Africans with South Americans. He had a vision, he had a plan. And I was all for this plan because of the simple fact that more slaves were brought to Latin America than they were North America. And so I saw it. And I saw that, Latin Americans suffered what we suffered with the skin bleaching. They didn't skin bleach, but they believed in enhancing the races by importing Europeans. There was a time in Venezuela where they did not let immigrants from black countries go to Venezuela, and because Venezuela is kind of close to the Caribbean, you have Guyana, you have you have Grenada above Venezuela, you have Trinidad and Tobago by Venezuela, you have you have these places that are by Venezuela, right? You had some immigration because there was one time where Venezuela was actually kind of, I guess you can say it was kind of okay for seeking work and stuff like that. There was a time in history where Venezuela had that going on for itself. It was a good place to be, at a time. But then what happened was, the oil inflation, and that's when things went haywire, and that's when only the elite were eating, and the rest were left to suffer. Now, it must be said that 60% of Venezuela identify with having some kind of African origin, or at least having a mixed origin. The only the other 20% is pretty much made up of, I want to say Caucasian, because you had a mass influx of Venezuelans of Portuguese descent, Venezuelans of, I want to say, German descent, and then Venezuelans of Spanish descent as well. That was the order of the day. In fact, they encouraged the immigration of these people from their respective home countries. So like the rest of Latin America, like Brazil, like Argentina, Venezuela at one point was trying to whiten up the population as well. Now, the thing is that Hugo Chavez, he acknowledged his African ancestry. He acknowledged his indigenous ancestry. And not only did he acknowledge it, he embraced it. Now, this is where, like, I guess you can say that besides slavery, Venezuela is interconnected with the black world in a bigger way, is that at one time, Simón Bolívar, the liberator. I believe Simon Bolivar, he liberated Ecuador, he liberated Colombia, he liberated Bolivia, he liberated Venezuela. I believe those countries he liberated. I'm not sure if he did Peru or not. I'm not sure about that. You know, I'm not quite sure. I got to research more about Bolivar. But Bolivar, you know, he said even that, you know, that they were distinctly different from Europeans. And one thing that needs to be said about Bolivar, and this is and this is a fact. You know, this is nothing but a factual statement that the flags of Ecuador, the flags of Venezuela, the flag of even Colombia is loosely based on the Haitian flag for the simple fact Bolivar sought help to liberate Latin America from Haiti. Haiti provided troops, ammunition, and the ships to forego this liberation. And all Haiti asked for return. They didn't ask for no money. They didn't ask for nothing like that. They just asked for slavery to be abolished there. That was their only thing that they asked. Now, I don't know if slavery was abolished. That's the thing. That's the main thing. I don't really know if Simon Bolivar abolished slavery afterward, but many sources say that he didn't. You know, that's what someone said. You know, that Simon Bolivar did not keep his end of the bargain. But you know, at the end of the day, with Simon Bolivar, I will respect him for like liberating that the Latin America, and also putting black generals in position to help him liberate Latin America. I think he had a couple of black generals in his ranks, you know, so I'll give him that. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, you know, at least liberate slavery, you know, at least in slavery, my guy, like keep your end of the bargain, you feel me? So, you know, it is what it is, you know. But we fast forward to Hugo Chavez, who wanted to have the ideas of the Bolivarian Revolution, who wanted to break away from neoliberalism, who wanted to break away from the shackles of imperialism, because, you know, Venezuela, the one mistake that Hugo Chavez made is that he didn't diversify the economy in time. You know, Venezuela was very dependent on, it was an oil-based economy. You know, that's what they were really dependent on. And so with that dependence, you know, they weren't able to, you know, have any backup plans. And another problem is their assets are offshore, and a lot of the people who are enemies of the Bolivarian Revolution, they are not giving up their asset. They're not giving them back their assets. As a matter of fact, they're stealing their assets. To take it even a step further, the United States has used Venezuelan assets to start the construction of that border wall in Mexico. That money did not come from anywhere in the United States. That money did not come from Mexico. That money came from stolen Venezuelan assets. And so when we look at Venezuela, we look at the fact that I just talked to my Venezuelan friend right now, and he says there are many African students studying in Venezuela. I say to myself that I am a part of Venezuela, how Thomas Sankara once said about Che, that Che is Burkinabe. I fit into the same thing, that I am Venezuelan by struggle, Venezuelan by the fact that I too My land has suffered from neocolonialism, neoliberalism, neo-exploitation. Only an elite few that benefit from the resources of the country while the rest are left to suffer. And I said it before and I'll say it again. The United States' hatred of Venezuela is not only rooted in wanting the oil, it is rooted in racism. It is rooted in that the United States has never thought that people that are brown, people that are black can govern themselves. That is why the United States has done everything in its power to sabotage Haiti. That's why the aid in which the United States has used for Haiti has went to private people that are outside of Haiti. And so I say happy Independence Day to these places, to Algeria, to Venezuela, to Cabo Verde. But I say that we have a long ways to go. And I say that it is my vision. It is my vision. It is my hope. It is my aspiration that the black people of Cabo Verde, the black people of North Africa, the black people of Latin America, the black people of the Caribbean, that somehow, some way we will come together as a collective and we will break the shackles of neocolonialism, break the shackles of liberals, break the shackles of imperialism, break the shackles of self-hate, break the shackles of thinking that we can't do for self, and breaking the shackles of not having a backbone. With that being said, that's all I got for y'all. I'm not a politician. I'm just a nigga who's researching, trying to get out of this maze. And you know, it sucks because I wrote an article about Venezuela and the Bolivarian Revolution and the African significance of the Bolivarian Revolution and the blueprint that was left behind that Africans needed to take and run with from the Bolivarian Revolution. And that article actually enticed Venezuelans to invite me to come to their country. Because Venezuelans actually have a grassroots foundation called, and it's actually my avatar. It's my avatar, actually. It's called Foundation Thomas Sankara Deportiva Sociocultural. Because when the Bolivarian Revolution happened, they became curious about these figures. They became curious about Amilcar Cabral. They became curious about Thomas Sankara. They became curious about Patrice Lumumba. And even one Venezuelan asked me to send them some books on them. And I'm like, say no more. I'm going to get you some books, bro. And, I was supposed to go there to see that foundation and speak about Thomas Sankara and, his radical ideas and what he wanted, But unfortunately, because of the what this country has done to Venezuela, I'm not able to do that. And with COVID, I'm not able to do that as well. That's the downside, unfortunately. But in the future, I hope to go to Venezuela. I want to see, what's going on there. And I want to see it for face value. I don't want to see it from these fake old Western media controlled news outlets. And with that being said, man, I'm just going to sign off and leave your thoughts and leave your comments. Again, happy Independence Day to Algeria, Cabo Verde, and Venezuela. Because of COVID, there won't be no cookout, no Cabo Verde cookout. Because today, if we would be celebrating independence. We would be at the park grubbing, doing what we do. But because of this pandemic, we're not able to do so. But anyhow, man, that's all I got for now. Fuller signing out. Njada.